Hello everybody, welcome back to another Bleach 5e update video. This is going to be update 18 and let's get right into it. So the changelog for this month, as for those who don't know, I've switched over to a monthly update schedule. That way it gives people more time to settle in and adjust to the changes, as bi-weekly was a little too fast for some people with their campaigns, and some changes being a lot bigger than others kind of could be a little disruptive sometimes. So switched over the updates to monthly, and currently the updates are going to be on the first Sunday of each month is what I think I'm going to settle on. So you'll be getting this first Monday of November, which is the 5th. But let's get right into the changelog. So in this update, we have new armament rules / info, more details for final Shikai and final Bankai, as well as new conditions, change some wording on Resurreccion, Segunda Etapa, very minor changes to that. Changed Reiatsu check, a new feat because of the changes to the Reiatsu check, which is improved Reiatsu Control, and of course page numbers being updated since new pages were added. But that's it for the changes on the changelog. So let's get through those one at a time. But before we move on, of course, I need to mention the YouTube channel. And if you're not subscribed to, please subscribe to it. It will help me tremendously. It's free and you'll get access and updates to all the videos that I put out. A lot of the update videos and keeping up with the book and making sure you're up to date with anything I do regarding the Bleach 5e system. So I would appreciate it if you guys subscribe to it, like the video, even share it would be even much appreciated. However, if you do want to support me even further than that, I do have a Patreon that you can become a member to. As you can see here, I got quite a few perks for different price points with a lot of different benefits. Now I have recently did a little mini revamp to the Patreon with a lot of the different perks. The current patrons little post was made for it, and I got a lot of feedback on it privately, so I'll be making those changes. By the time this video comes out, they should be rolled out already. If not, you know, keep an eye out for those that are subscribed, and those that are thinking of subscribing, that's going to be getting updated soon. So with all that said, I also want to put up on the screen here the current patrons. Thank you to all that are currently subscribed and supporting me by becoming a patron. Thank you guys so much, and I hope to see you continue your support for me throughout this journey on this book. But with all that said, let's get right into the video. All right, so changes here for armament abilities. The changes that were made here is a little rearranging of the whole this first page here, talking about different stuff on here, updated some wording for like abilities beyond, spell point costs, components, armament attacks. Now, this is one of the new ones. So this is kind of going to be a little sneak peek as well and also prepping for the armament ability rework that I'm working on. So you're going to see some new wording here, and this here, one of the new wording. So it's armament attacks. Some abilities require you to make a melee or ranged armament attack. These are weapon attacks made specifically with your armament. So that way, you know, kind of how you see like weapon attacks. It's, you know, an attack made with a weapon of any kind, like whatever it is. If it's a weapon, it's an attack made with it. Similar to that. So these are weapon attacks, but they're specifically made with your armament. Now I know some abilities don't really make attacks per se, like projectile currently, but with the new update, you'll see the wording will be adjusted to accommodate this new wording here. So you'll see that in the future once that comes out. But let's move on over to augment. So before it wasn't specifically, you know, stated what augments were. So I have it on here, a nice little section of what they are, describing it, which we can just read. Augments are changes or additional effects applied to an armament ability. Each ability has their own number of augments. Whenever an ability refers to a number of augments, it only counts the number that ability has. Some abilities may have a requirement with an ability to have a certain number of augments, as the example below. So, example ability requirements armor in parentheses 3. The requirement, armor 3 in parentheses, notates that to select this ability, you must first have the armor ability and 3 augments for it. That's what that means. So hopefully that's a little bit, that's enough info on what augments mean, how they work, and such. If you still have any questions, feel free to let me know. But yeah, other than that, some new wording just got updated really to streamline some wording for other stuff. That's mainly it for this section here. Coming down to the Zanpakuto specifically on Final Shikai and Final Bankai, let's read through what it reads now. So for Final Shikai, it's a powerful attack that requires sacrificing your weapon. You gain an ultimate ability of your choice. When the ability ends, your Zanpakuto is destroyed, gaining the broken condition. While broken, you can't activate or benefit from its armament abilities. After 10 days, minus your proficiency bonus, your Zanpakuto regenerates and the condition ends. So there's a bit of confusion of like when exactly does your Zanpakuto break? At the beginning of the ability, as soon as you use it, when it ends. So I've made this specifically once that ability ends, whether the duration runs out, anything else happens, like if it's like a minute but it ends around sooner or whatever, whenever that ability ends, that's when your Zanpakuto gets destroyed, and then it gains the new broken condition, which we'll go over once we get to the conditions section. So that's for the Final Shikai. Now for Final Bankai, most of it is still the same, but I added this little section here as some people were so kind of confused what Final Bankai. So this technique is not one that is easily revealed to you by your Zanpakuto. This technique is of tremendous power, but at a great cost. By using this technique, you merge with your Zanpakuto, but afterwards you lose all your Shinigami powers. Work with your GM on what or how your Final Bankai functions, taking inspiration from the only canon source there is, Ichigo's Final Getsuga Tensho. Now this ability is purposefully broad in what exactly it is, because that's going to be unique and different to each individual character, which is why this is something you need to work specifically with your GM to like craft something, on what it could be. The only inspiration we have is just the Final Getsuga Tensho from Ichigo, so there's not really a lot of other sources. So I would work with GM to maybe mimic that, or however else you as a player want your thing to be, talk to your GM, work something out. I do have a little picture here, as you can see all this image text. But it's not popping up for whatever reason, and I don't know what's going on with GM Binder, but it keeps disappearing, specifically this one, and all my other pictures are gone. But it's just Ichigo and his Final Getsuga Tensho mode. So hopefully by the time the video comes out, I fix it and you can see how cool it looks, but whatever. But yeah, that's the changes and kind of updates to Final Shikai and Final Bankai to hopefully give some clarification to that. All right, next up is the new conditions that have been added. So some of these conditions, like a lot of other bigger YouTubers and other people have done in their home games, and seen it a lot online, a lot of people have codified certain things that are in D&D that aren't conditions, but they happen a lot, that just words were made for just new conditions. So for example, bloodied, something that a lot of people use, and obviously people use all the time, but not really a condition per se. But this is just something that, just to make it easier. So when something says bloodied, you just know what it means. So let's go through each of these conditions and you'll see what I mean by that. So bloodied. The bloodied creature has hit points fewer than half its maximum hit points remaining. So most of it, people will say like, oh, when you're at half HP, that's bloodied. Yeah, a simple way to put it, but I specifically use this specific worded. The bloodied creature has hit points fewer than half its maximum hit points. Because that can mean if your hit points can raise up, your hit points are greater, and you're, not at your half anymore and not bloodied. With like raising your max HP or lowering your max HP, this wording takes into account for that, which is something that you will see with the new Armament rework, and you'll see more of that with that. But that's mainly why I use that wording, is to account for increases and decreases of maximum hit point from certain abilities. Now let's look at broken. Broken. A creature can't be proficient with the broken weapon. Whenever a creature scores a critical hit, it becomes a normal hit. The weapon's damage is changed to 1d4 minus 1 of its type. So the broken condition is quite, it's a lot. There's not really a broken condition anymore in at least in 5th edition. So I specifically wanted to make this something unique and special to this edition. But yeah, I think it's pretty good. I kind of like it. And then if there's any additional things, you know, the source or whatever, when something's broken, it'll specifically say, like how we saw in the final Shikai, you know, while your weapon is broken, it tells you that you can't benefit or activate any armament abilities. Because I don't really want to put that on here and like not, you know, because it might not be relevant. It might be some other weapon that doesn't have armament abilities that's broken. So that's why it doesn't state that in the condition itself. Moving on over to dazed. A dazed creature can move or take an action on its turn, not both. A dazed creature can't take bonus actions. Next up is distracted. The creature can't take reactions. Drained. Now this is something that is surprisingly really hasn't been already codified or brought in, you know, in 5th edition. This is definitely something we see with a few high level, well, not high level, but a few creatures with some pretty nasty abilities, like the Wraith specifically. But the drained creature's maximum hit points are reduced. The amount is listed by the source. This condition lasts until the drained creature finishes a long rest. The creature dies if its hit point maximum is 0. So I put it on here. I wanted to specifically add this wording on here because if some people will see it, they'll just be like, well, by how much? You know what? Whatever. Like, well, it's source, whatever it is making the creature drained, it will tell you by how much or by what amount. So I wanted to just specifically add this little line here. But that's drained. Next up is ignited. Now, a lot of people have done their version of burned conditions or ignited or what, you know, set ablaze, however, whatever word they want to use. I did a little poll and it seems like ignited was the popular choice. So let's read what it does. At the start of the ignited creature's turn, it takes an amount of fire damage listed by the source. The creature has advantage on ability checks and concentration checks. If a creature uses an action to extinguish the flames, or if some other effect douses the flames, the condition ends. Now, as you can see here, it's going to be a theme here of how much, if certain things are doing damage, it won't put it in the ability itself. Like whatever is giving you that condition will tell you by how much. And this is just to help Ignited be more, you know, scaling. As you can probably tell, lots of things scale in this book. So maybe the fire armament will have, you know, the ability to give Ignited, and that version deals more damage than other sources would. Possibly, maybe sneak peek, but just, you know, throwing it out there. But that's ignited here. Next up is immobilize. An immobilized creature's speed becomes 0 and it can't benefit from any bonus to its speed. If a flying creature becomes immobilized, it falls unless it can hover. So similar to like kind of restrained, but there's some abilities that just say you can't move and put you at 0, but it doesn't really give you any other, you know, negative effects. So this is kind of just helps out with a lot of just speed negating kind of stuff. But that's immobilized. Next up is shocked. A shocked creature can't take a bonus action or an action on its turn. Can take a bonus action or an action on its turn, not both. The creature can't take reactions, and the creature cannot move. To mimic, you know, I don't know if anyone knows or seen, I'm sure people have seen videos online. When you get shocked, you don't move. You just kind of clench up. However, in a lot of, you know, media, whether it's anime or whatever, when creatures kind of get shocked, they're kind of like mini paralyzed and they kind of can do something or break out of it, whatever. But that's shock there to kind of help mimic that and not really be a complete feels bad like paralyzed, where it's just like, oh yeah, you just nope, can't do anything. Sorry, that's it. No fun for you. Stop playing the game. No actions. So I really, and a lot of people too are straying away from like paralyzed because it's just not fun for the players. And this is mainly, for the players. So definitely a better version, better condition to be using than paralyzed. Next up is slowed. Here, oh, it's all the wording here. I gotta get rid of all this right here. But slow, same thing. Nothing's changed. Still the same thing from new 5e, or I guess new D&D next, whatever. They codified slowed, so I make sure I put it in the book. Next up is taunted. A taunted creature can't move away from its taunter. The creature has disadvantage on all attack rolls against targets other than its taunter. So this is kind of like an inverse of feared, or when you're something is when you're frightened. Sorry. This is, I kind of wanted to make this sort of an inverse of frightened. So for a frightened creature, you can't move closer to your source of fear. This one here, you can't move away from your taunter because you're aggravated by them and you have to stay there and beat them up. Take care of that problem. So that's taunted. This is definitely something you'll probably see, and also just to really help with certain abilities, and if with a lot of more a group play in mind. With like juggling aggro on a mob or on a boss or a creature or whatever. So I think this is a good version of taunted. So let me know what you guys think about that. Next up is weakened. A weakened creature has disadvantage on strength-based ability checks and strength saving throws. Weapon attacks that rely on strength to deal half damage. Now this is another common thing we see in D&D where it's just been codified on here. I believe one of the dragon's breath weapons deal this, and I can't remember what else. He gives you this kind of condition, like makes you weakened, but this is what we have here. Final one is wounded. Now this is my version of bleeding or something like that. I needed to make it, as you can see, most of the words are pretty similar to how we see in regular D&D and the tense of use and all of these. So I wanted to make sure, so instead of bleeding, wounded I think was a better choice for the wording. But let's look at what it does. At the start of the wounded creature's turn, it loses 1d4 hit points for each time it's been wounded. After a creature loses HP from being wounded, it can make a Constitution saving throw, ending the effect of all such wounds on itself on a success. A wounded creature or a creature within 5 feet of it can use an action to make a Wisdom Medicine check, ending the effect of such wounds on it on a success. So basically the exact wording from the magic item, Wounding Blade, and other things that similarly do this. Now this one I didn't want to make scaling, as I think that could easily get out of hand, so I just wanted to leave it at a flat 1d4. I believe it was in my past update too. Hit point loss is just damage being done that cannot be prevented or redirected at all. Or did it? I don't remember. But if I didn't, then this is the first time you're hearing this term. That's what loss of hit points means. That it is just damage that can't be redirected or reduced, and it bypasses temporary hit points, straight up your HP just going down. So that's what that means. But those are all the new conditions, or at least updated conditions as well. Let me know what you guys think of all these. I'd like to hear your thoughts on all of them. Maybe there's some more stuff in here that happens a lot in 5e that I should also codify and turn into conditions as well, or some things that need to be changed. Maybe if you think, I'd love to hear any and all thoughts regarding that. Next up, we have Reiatsu checks. So this here is different. Also, hit point losses up here real quick if you want to give that a little read. But Reiatsu checks. So Reiatsu checks wasn't that great the first time around that I did it, but it was just something real quick and easy that I made up on a fly that was easy to deal with. Not much has changed, honestly, but let's just go through it. So Reiatsu is a physical force that a person's Resurreccion creates when released, represented by a d20 plus your level. You can only do this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. You regain all uses on a long rest. So whenever you're making a Reiatsu check, it's just a d20 plus your level. And let's see what else you can use these checks for. Whenever a creature makes a dexterity stealth check, they also make a Reiatsu check to conceal their Reiatsu. This is something we see, in the show when they're trying to conceal their Reiatsu and hide it away from others. This is just another way to sense creatures, with like just like tremor sense, blind sense, all that, similar to that. You're hiding your Reiatsu so like it can't be sensed by others. A creature can spend an action to make a Reikaku check to sense the presence of Reiatsu. This check is opposed by a creature's Reiatsu check. So this is Reikaku is just Japanese for spiritual sense. Same thing to sense other people's Reiatsu, just to sense the presence and what we see normally. I would like to expand more on this. I'm still on the fence of either leaving it like that or making it a new skill. But at the moment, I think I'm okay with how it is right now. Let me know if there's something more you guys want to see from Reiatsu checks, anything different or more to it, or whatever's here just not working for you. Let me know. I'd like to hear about it. But that's currently the Reiatsu check. Now let's look at the new feat made for these changes. All right, so now we have improved Reiatsu Control. So you have trained to have greater control over your own spiritual power. As a reaction when you're targeted by an attack roll, you can make a Reiatsu check and use the result as your AC. At 5th level, as a reaction when you're required to make a saving throw, you can make a Reiatsu check in place of that saving throw. So this is something we kind of hear a bit in, and we hear about it often, but we only really see it like twice, where characters in Bleach state that if your Reiatsu is stronger than others, you're basically invulnerable to them. And then that kind of just gets thrown out the window. But it's then also stated that if you have greater control and very precise with your spiritual power, even if it's lesser than someone, you can still overpower them. So that's what I assume is happening in a lot of times. Is, the first real example we get is with Ichigo and Kenpachi in the fight. Ichigo just can't cut him because he's like, yeah, my spiritual power is just that much more powerful than yours. And then Ichigo's like, yeah, but that's crazy because I'm the main character, and then cuts him. But kind of like he learns to control his Reiatsu a bit, focus in, and plot development stuff. Still great. But yeah, I wanted to make a feat that kind of mimics that a bit, so I have it on here. Now, be mindful when you're making Reiatsu checks in place of these. You can only make a number of Reiatsu checks per day. So this isn't something that you're going to be doing constantly. For your GMs to keep an eye out for your players, and for you players to know this isn't something you're going to do all the time. You have a limited number of Reiatsu checks you can make per day. But that's the changes for that, and a new fee for those changes to the Reiatsu check. All right, last update we have here is some updated wording on Resurreccion Segunda Etapa, specifically when it states here of gaining abilities. So here it was gain 2 hollow abilities. Now I've been asked this if before it just said gain 2 hollow abilities that are only available in this form. People ask, well, can I just pick up this same ability multiple times to stack it? No, that's not how that would work. You can only go into these forms once. That's kind of not something I should say, and it's pretty obvious. You can't just go, Resurrection Segunda Etapa and then go into Resurrection again. That's not how any of the abilities work. But just to make it a little idiot proof, I just put in here gain 2 other hollow abilities so you can't pick up the same ability. That's kind of it. Very minor change. But with all that said, that's everything for this updates for this month. So the next update you guys are going to see is going to be next month. Really, as I've stated in the previous videos, lots of these updates that are coming out are pretty small, just because I don't want to make any more drastic changes up until I complete the whole rework of all the armament abilities. So I also wanted to give an update on that. I'm about halfway done, just about to be halfway done. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to have all of them taken care of by the end of the month by the new update. So the new update should be all of the new armament abilities that have been reworked. The only ones that really aren't going to be touched is Quincy and like Hollow, just because those two are their own little beasts I want to handle separately. But everything else should be reworked. Probably also summoning, because I'm still like really stuck on what I want to do with summoning, and I'm not getting a lot of feedback on summoning. So I don't think anyone's playing summoning. So I'm kind of in the dark here of the what routes to really take, because no one's really kind of speaking up saying like this ability is working, this isn't working, I don't like this, I like this. So I don't know, maybe it'll be like bounce and I just completely take it out of the book, since it doesn't seem like anyone's playing it. So should I'm not gonna waste my time waste my time on something that no one's gonna even touch or play. So if you like summoning or you are playing summoning, speak up now or forever hold your peace. Yeah, word of warning for that. But that's everything. Thank you guys so much for watching another video, another update. As you can see, we're on the 18th update. I've been going for, man, I think coming up to a year now since I've released this book out to the public and started working on it publicly. As this all started with just my friend group, and for them, just because we wanted to play a D&D and Bleach. So I figured other people would enjoy it too, and I'm glad other people are enjoying it as well. So thank you guys so much. Like I stated before, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe, like the video, share it to all the other weeaboo friends. That would be greatly appreciated. If you want to support me further, there is a Patreon if you are interested in that. But thank you guys so much, and a good night.